how can I build my own business, my own brand, and ultimately live the life I want now rather than waiting till hopefully I'm healthy enough to retire. At some point, you kind of just have to take a gamble on yourself if that's what's going to push you towards that direction of being happy with everything that you've accomplished.
Welcome to Be Bold Branding, where we discuss the power of differentiating yourself through your own unique story and standout personal brand. Today, we're talking with Nick Nalbach, an entrepreneur and podcast host of the 9-to-5 podcast. So if you're stuck in that 9-to-5 grind, maybe you want to start a podcast, you're in the right place today. On the show, Nick helps navigate the space between working a 9-to-5 job into full-time entrepreneurship by interviewing those people who have successfully done it. Now, today, we're going to turn the tables on Nick, okay? And he's going to share his story, exactly who he helps, and why he does what he does. I'm Tanya Eberhardt, the founder of BrandFace. We help experts and entrepreneurs differentiate themselves. And we do that through personal branding.
And I'm Michael Carr. I'm the COO of BrandFace. I was actually a client 8 years ago, and the principles made my company so successful that I became a partner in BrandFace. And today we're the most comprehensive personal brand building system across the globe. And we'd like to welcome a big, bold brand. Welcome to the show. Brother Nick, how are you, sir?
I am doing great, guys. Thank you so much for letting me come on and share my story with you guys. I'm excited.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We are too.
We've been on your show and had a chance to share our story there. And we just love what you stand for. So we wanted to talk to you today. So let's start with this, Nick. Tell me, was there any event in your life or a person in your life that helped shape who you are today? In other words, how did you get started in this profession?
Yeah, so I think really it started back when I was going through college, all the way back in like 2015 is when I graduated, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was kind of just going through the motions trying to figure it all out, and graduated, kind of got that career going just because I knew those were the steps I needed to take. And I got to a point where I was like, this just doesn't feel right. Like, I don't feel like I'm where I want to be or see where I'm going, like is going where I want it to be, essentially. And I knew something had to change, but I didn't know what it was. It didn't click for me. And once I started diving into business books, I was like, okay, this is again what I'm supposed to be doing, trying to figure out the world. And I stumbled on a book called The Millionaire Fast Lane. And it completely changed my way of thinking because of like, why are you waiting until retirement to live the life you want? You don't know what's going to happen 30, 40 years from now, and you're going to take that chance. And that like completely blew my mind, kind of flipped my mindset entirely. It's like, yeah, why would I kind of bet everything on a career when I don't really enjoy it and I don't know what's going to happen down the road? So that's what kind of set me down that path of entrepreneurship and like, how can I build my own business, my own brand, and ultimately live the life I want now rather than waiting till hopefully I'm healthy enough to retire.
I agree with that thought process for sure. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen 3 minutes from now, much less 30 years, right?
Yeah, but it does go against everything we're taught. You know, it's like, just hold back, do the hard work now, put the grind in now so that one day you can live the way you really want to. And so I can understand how that would flip your head upside down when you're hearing that for the first time. It's like, wow, that's like backward of what we've been taught.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like being taught that throughout your entire life, it's kind of ingrained in you. Like, this is the only route. This is the path that you have to take. And if you don't, then you're either not going to be successful, you're not going to be happy, whatever that is. And I mean, personally, I had always looked up at some of the big name business owners and entrepreneurs and thought like, wow, that's out of my league. I could never be Elon Musk. Like, that's just ridiculous. And it wasn't until I kind of had that mind shift and started seeing people that were wildly successful, and you never hear about them in the papers, online, wherever. You never hear news about them because they're not making billions and billions of dollars, but they're living the lives they want to live on their own terms, financially free, time free. And that just, it captivated me. And I was like, this is what I want to do. Clearly people are making it happen. So I should be able to make this happen too.
I like that. That's a leader's thought process, Nick. In your opinion, what's the number one thing that's keeping people from breaking away from their 9 to 5?
I personally think it's getting caught in that feeling of like a comfortable, stable position. Um, I know this is something I'm still very much navigating right now because I am in a 9 to 5 job, and eventually I'm going to have to make that transition where I say, okay, I'm going to have to leave that stable 9 to 5 job behind and just focus solely on something that I've built. And I think that can very much be a intimidating thing, a scary thing when you're like, I'm getting a paycheck every week or every 2 weeks or whatever it is, and all of a sudden that kind of lifeline's gone, and now it's up to you to kind of carry it forward. And I don't know, at some point you kind of just have to take a gamble on yourself if that's what's going to push you towards that direction of being happy with everything that you've accomplished within your
Mhm.
life.
Well, I love what this is, and I don't mean to interrupt you. I love what this is because what I see is you leading the charge and saying, okay, well, if I'm going to do this, why not just go ahead and start it now and put myself in a better position to migrate out of that 9 to 5, which is what you're working on now. And that's just showing people, taking them by the hand and showing them and say, hey, look, here's how you do it step by step. Even I wasn't able to jump away from one to go to
Right.
the next, right?
Right.
And I'm the 9 to 5 freedom guy.
Yeah, exactly.
But you got to start somewhere,
Well,
show your journey.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Walking the journey is what I was going to say. I'm older than you, Nick. And I know most people wouldn't look at us side by side and think that I'm a good bit older than you, but I am. And I've been through some things myself like that. I can tell you, I've been a serial entrepreneur all my life. So I worked for other people for about 6 months after I got out of high school. And ever since then, I've worked for myself. I had a chance to be educated as an electrical engineer. I didn't want to do it. I wanted to be an auctioneer. My mom cried, "You're going to starve to death," that sort of thing. I at many times thought I wouldn't, right? But I can tell you this, like in different phases of my entrepreneurship and businesses that did really well and businesses that did not, I can tell you, I've always struggled with the fact, even after all these years, that you have to be willing to sacrifice what you have to get what you want. And we as humans never stop that balance ever. And, Elon Musk didn't just wake up one day. Jeff Bezos didn't just wake up one day like, oh, look, I'm a billionaire. No, these guys have been gambling everything they had every day of their life for like the last 40 years. You know what I mean? And putting it on the line again and putting it on the line again. But I don't say that to scare any of the listeners. I say that with a caveat. So one day I'm in the backyard, it's a beautiful day, and I'm just thinking about things, and I'm like, man, I got these goals, I got these dreams. This is like literally 5 years ago. And I'm like, I got these goals, I got these dreams, I got these things that I want to do, but I'm gonna have to sacrifice this to get it done, and that to get it done, and this to get it done. But I started the thought process of it, and it will blow your mind that if you are walking the walk, even though you're going to your 9 to 5 and doing the talk about getting out of that 9 to 5 and chronicling that journey, don't you think that the doors just tend to begin to open, and then it's not so much a gamble anymore, and you're like, oh, look at this opportunity. Don't you think, are you discovering that as you make your journey?
Yeah, absolutely. And that was kind of the concept behind why I started 9 5 to Freedom as a brand before the podcast was even really a thought. It was, okay, surely there's people that are in a similar position where they feel stuck, but they can't figure out what that is.
Mhm.
And I agree that like taking this on comes with some sort of sacrifice, whether that's time to focus on something on the like off hours when you're not working or whatever it might be. But I truly think that you can build something alongside running or working a 9 to 5 job. And yeah, my thought was like, if I can carry people through this journey of like how I'm navigating it, they're going to be able to see like, hey, Nick's doing a 9 to 5 job. He's building his own brand and his own business on the side. Like, surely I can see what he's doing and learn from the people that are coming on the show that have done it and kind of take a similar path, or it might not be exactly the same, but you can see that it's done. And I'm just a normal
Absolutely.
person like
Yep.
the listener. So it's like, if I
Yep.
can do it, anybody can do it type of mentality.
And I feel the same way. If we can do it, if in our businesses, if we can do it, anybody can do it. Like I'm not designing an iPhone here or a touchscreen TV or patent or something like that. You know what I mean? I'm like, we're just building a business, like just taking care of customers. But I encourage you, obviously, to continue. You've always got, we like you, and we're always a fan of yours. Just continue, because to your listeners, you can do that, and you're going to find that time eventually it's not a sacrifice. Like those doors are going to fly open because you're staying focused on what they're doing, and you're moving in action, even if it's just a half a step at a time. If you are moving towards that goal, the universe is going to give it to you, is what it boils down to. And it will. And then the next thing you know, it's not a sacrifice to walk from that 9 to 5, because you know that industry, you know what you've been doing, you know whatever it is that is your dream, and you've seen that go along the way. And all entrepreneurs, I think, take that step. So it does come together if that is exactly what we want.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. What is your idea of freedom? What does freedom look like to Nick?
My idea, like when I kind of decided to dive into this whole entrepreneurship thing, it was like, if I'm working a 9 to 5 job, I'm being dictated how much I'm going to make. Maybe I catch a little bit of a raise every year, every couple of years. They're going to tell me when I can take time off. I can request it, but are they going to give it to me? So for me, freedom is being able to kind of set my own threshold and my own parameters. Like if I'm building a business and I can make money myself, I basically make as much money as I want to go. Like the ceiling kind of disappears after a certain point. And I'm also not having to rely on someone else to give me permission to go travel and see the world or go do things that I want to do. So the freedom is being able to kind of make my own decisions and not have it be dictated by someone else's schedule or someone else's idea of what I need to be doing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect sense.
Yeah. Yeah. That's actually why I asked. My first personal goal when BrandFace was launched was about freedom. I said, the one thing that I want to come out of this for me personally is to be able to do what I do from anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
So as long as I have an internet connection, a good one, right? Those aren't always easy to find, but as long as I have a good one, I can conduct business from anywhere in the world. And it was really cool to see that happen for the first time. It was cool. And then you sit there thinking, oh shoot, I've got that. What's next? Right. That's when it gets scary.
There's always a what's next.
There's always a what's next. There sure is. Yep.
But that's sort of the fun of freedom too. I think I really do, is, being the master of your own space and time. You are as rich as anybody. Like to me, rich doesn't have anything to do with a bank account or commas or zeros. It has to do with your ability, because I know a lot of really wealthy people who they have no time, they have no family, they have no fun. That, I remember sitting on a balcony of this, back then it was $15 million mansion in Laguna Beach, and now it's probably worth 30. And this dude's worth literally worth $700 million. And he's like, I don't know what I want. And I'm like, well, dude, if you don't know what you want,
right.
What's the hope for us?
And it dawns on me, I'm like, it doesn't matter how much money I have. It's all right here, because, even if you're making a lot of money, but all you're doing is working, you're not free. You haven't freed your heart and mind to enjoy life and the really important things, because, we take that last breath. We're not going to be looking at a balance sheet, and we're not going to be wishing we spent one more day at work, So I definitely think finding what you love is a key to it. And then, you never work a day in your life. And I know that's so cliche, but it's still so true for a reason. So it's a cliche for a reason, right?
Well, it is true.
If you are if you are able to kind of create that freedom for yourself where, you're not tied down to one location, you can kind of move freely about while still supporting yourself and your family, whatever it is, I feel like it opens up the opportunity to find those passions, or you might find new things that you enjoy. And if you're kind of stuck in a specific setting, you're not exposed to different things that are out there. And it kind of, you paint yourself into this box and this is all I am, this is all I know. And then that can be, although it can be comfortable at times, it can also be kind of draining in a way, I feel like.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It feels very restrictive, right?
Well,
Yeah.
Tanya's favorite Dr. Wayne Dyer quote is, you change the way you look at things and the things you look at change. And I think that's a really pertinent to that.
It sure is. Now, I want you to take just a moment and tell us, like, you help coach podcasters who want to start their own podcast like you did, because very often that is like step number one out of the box, right? Out of your comfort zone box for one thing, that's for a lot of people. And for another thing, it's like taking one step forward in that dream of attaining that freedom. Tell us a little bit about what you do to work with those folks.
Yeah, so I help kind of navigate those beginning steps because it can be a very intimidating thing. And as I'm diving deeper into it, I'm realizing how important that branding and that messaging is. And kind of a big part of having you guys on the show, you guys helped kind of reframe my mind with a lot of that as well, because you're getting into it. You're like, I want to start a podcast, but am I going to know what to talk about? Like, who's going to listen to me? There's all this tech, there's the software, you got to edit it. How do you get it on Apple and Spotify? And like, there's all these, it seems like a very intimidating thing to take on. So you go from, I want to start a podcast to like, that might be a little bit too much more than I can bite off. So I like to help people like break it down really simple. We build a system to basically not eat up all of your time, because that's the biggest thing, especially if you're shooting for freedom. The last thing you want to do is strap yourself in an office just editing all day long. So I like to guide people through the tech and the software and all that, but more importantly, figuring out that message and the content and the audience you're going to serve, because once you kind of have that nailed down, the content seems to just create itself. Like, once you have that message down, you never really have to think too hard about what am I going to post next, because it just starts coming to you when you keep that in mind.
That is so true.
Yep.
Yeah. We find that with all the clients we work with, it's like, okay, I don't even know what to put in my marketing, what to put on social media, what to put anywhere. And the first thing we ask is, okay, well, who do you want to hear it? Right. And why do you want them to hear it? What do you have to say that's different from everybody else trying to talk to these same people? A lot of those things, and that makes it much more clear when you dial that in. I love how you put it. It creates itself. The content creates itself.
Agree. Yeah. It's that starting point that's so elusive at many times.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's even after I started the podcast, like, I was just kind of doing it as like, I'm going to build an audience. If I show up enough times, like, people are going to see me, they're going to start to pay attention. And it became so much more than that, but it was all kind of random. So I was kind of in that point where I'm like, okay, who am I going to bring on the show? What is the content going to be about? And I actually started using these questions that I used to outline every episode. And it was like, if I would go through those questions and figure out what my audience is hoping to get from this episode, or what they should get out of this episode, it was like the episode just created itself right in front of me. And it's just simple little things that you can do to kind of uncover that.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And I'm glad you're making this journey, and we're about to make it even clearer for the people who are listening to us today.
Yeah. So we're going to ask you 5 important questions about your personal brand. Okay. And the first one is, what sets you apart from others in your industry?
For me, it's kind of being boots on the ground. Like, I'm at that same level, if not just a few steps ahead, where you can kind of look at what I'm doing and see the mistakes I'm making, for one, so you can avoid them, and 2, see what I'm doing that's working. And I try to be as transparent as possible, because there's so much fluff. You read blog posts, you listen to certain podcasts, and it's like all hoorah rah. Like, I don't know, it seems like too fluffy to me, and it's not really what's happening. So I try to be as transparent as possible with the guests that I bring on and the content that I speak about, because it's content that I feel can truly help my audience. And my whole goal with the podcast is to bring on people who have done it, because I might not be the one expert that knows all of these topics, but there are people out there who know it and have done it. So I think what sets me apart is I'm really conscious of that transparency and like trying to get to the real info and avoid all that fluff.
That's a good point of differentiation too.
Yes, it is. It's very good.
Very good.
Okay. Question number 2, exactly who do you serve? Who are your ideal customers?
So For 9 to 5 to Freedom, my main audience would primarily be those aspiring entrepreneurs or the ones who have just kind of started breaking out. They're like, I'm starting my business, but what are the next steps here? Like, I have this idea, but now how do I put it into reality? Or someone who's kind of stuck in that position where they're like, whatever I'm doing right now in this 9 to 5, it doesn't feel right. I don't feel like I can see myself doing this for the 5, 10, 15 years down the road. Like, what options are there? Is this all that's left? Or is there something else? And yes, there is definitely something else out there.
Yeah. And a podcast is one way to get that message out to,
Mhm.
to showcase, okay, if you're looking for this, then here are your solutions, and bring on solution after solution after solution, which sets not only you, but your guests up as the experts.
Yes, that one of the biggest, I guess, limiting beliefs that I had when I started a podcast is like, if I'm going to start a podcast, it's going to be me talking. I have to be talking for 60 minutes straight. And what am I going to talk about for 60 minutes? And once I was like, well, I don't have to be the only one talking. I can bring on guests. I can have conversations with people. You'd be surprised, like talking to a guest, even if you're not an expert, you are kind of putting yourself in an expert position by one, curating and bringing those guests on, and two, just being associated with those people. The people that are listening to your podcast are going to see you as some sort of an expert in whatever your podcast is about. So I'm just been a huge advocate for podcasting, for not only building a brand, but setting yourself up as an expert and being able to just uncover great information.
Agreed. 100%. 100%. So how do you serve your ideal customer?
The podcast has been like my main focus. When I started, it was blogging and it didn't feel personal. And it was hard for me to keep up. I'm not much of a writer. So I'd always let that kind of fall behind. And the podcast was something that I really took hold of. And I was like, I'm not going to let this be something that just fizzles away. So through the podcast episodes, the guests that I bring on, that's the main way that I'm helping serve my audience. And two, now opening up coaching for people who want to do the same and want to have this same experience that I did starting a podcast. Because when I started, it was about building the audience. It was about, how do I attract more people to my show? And after I started the show, I realized it's not even about the audience, like building side of it anymore. It's about the relationships that you can build with the audience and the relationships and connections you can build with the guests. And I've just had a blast doing it. The amount of amazing people that I've met as a result of the show has blown my mind and is not anything I would have imagined when I first started this thing. So I don't know, it's been a crazy experience.
That's cool. That is
Yeah.
an ancillary like benefit to it because, as you host people, you're building your repertoire of people, of professionals, like you said. So
Right.
even if it's something that you are not a quote unquote expert at, now you've got the button to press to get to that expert, right? And you're being able to talk to them. That network is invaluable. So it's that focus change is really cool, that growth.
Yep. All right. Question number 4. What qualifies you to serve your customers?
The fact that I'm willing to find the answers. So, like we mentioned, I'm not an expert in everything. I've learned a lot. I'm not discrediting the amount that I've learned since graduating college and taking this on by any means, but if someone comes to me with a question and I don't know the answer, my first instinct is to go look that question up or try to find answers and like uncover what the answer to that problem is versus just kind of like, yeah, I don't know. You should probably go look it up. As easy it is for them to go Google it, like I can Google it, and I almost feel like when I'm asked that question, I should provide an answer. So I'm always learning new things, and I enjoy learning new things. So if it is something new, I kind of enjoy that process of like uncovering what the answer is for them and kind of take a lot of that work away from them.
Yeah.
I got a secret for you. 99% of people do that. It's okay.
Oh, yeah.
It's perfectly okay. I mean, we are not born knowing these things. We find out by asking questions and being, curious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think about it all the time. I'm like, man, like if I had to go to the Encyclopedia Britannica
Right.
to find what it is that I just put into a search engine, you know what I mean?
Right.
I'd have to read for 3 weeks to find
Oh,
out
absolutely.
one thing I could get in 30 seconds. I'm like, so we do live in crazy times, as some people like to point out, but we live in incredible times because that's pretty awesome that we have that information at our fingertips.
And somebody like you who's willing to go do that.
That's
right?
the key.
That's it. That's the difference. Is like you're willing to do that because you care that much about it.
Well, now you're answering number 5 for Nick.
I'll just be quiet.
So number 5, Nick, is how does it make their life better?
I think with the experience that I have built over the years and the things that I have learned, I'm able to, I don't know, siphon through a lot of the BS because I have experienced some of this stuff myself, and I have a better idea of what to look for now when I do look things up, or if I am trying to learn something new. It's very easy to just click on the first search result in Google and say, okay, this is how it is.
Mm-hmm.
But when you take complex topics like digital marketing, like SEO, for example, search engine optimization, you look that up and everyone's got a million different ways to talk about search engine optimization. So being able to kind of like, based off of my experience with these different aspects of business and the experiences that I've had, and be able to kind of couple that with what the experts are saying, I think that allows me to give a better, more educated response than just do this.
Yeah, no, I know it does. Yeah, Nick, it's, one of the things that we've noticed too is how when you work with a clientele, for years and years and years, you bring not just what you're able to do and learn and continue to learn and update, but you also have all of that backlog of what they're experiencing. So the next client that you bring on that is doing the same thing, then you've got all of that power behind you of all the other people that you've been through it with. So it's not just yours. We noticed it early on in our careers with coaches, and we're still of the people that believe you should pay for professional services, because you're either going to make the mistake yourself or you're going to go and find somebody that's made the mistake and give them the money they're worth to say, hey, don't hit that pitfall right there. And but one of the things that really jumped off the page at me and Tanya was that those coaches that we still have in our life, they have the power of everybody else and what they're experiencing, and they can bring that knowledge in a collective to us. So you're providing that in what you're doing every time you have somebody else on. Those of us who are in this service industry, we have that, and that's pretty awesome also, because it's a huge collective and it's an ever-changing thing, and we're got our finger on the pulse of it. So
sure do. So Nick, do us a favor, tell people how they can reach you if they have questions and want to take that journey right along with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I am mainly on Twitter and Instagram for social media, and it's just at 95free. I made it confusing on myself by spelling out letters, or spelling out numbers, but it's NINEFIVEFREE. And then if you want to listen to some of the guests that I'm bringing on the podcast, it's just 95podcast.com, and you'll find all of the episodes there, but it's on Apple, Spotify, all that.
Yep. You also have a podcast guide for people who just want to get started, right?
Yes, absolutely. I completely forgot. So yeah, if you go to 95podcast.com/start podcasting, hyphen in between start and podcasting, there is the podcast quick start guide, which will kind of build out a blueprint, a framework for you to kind of start walking you through the steps of launching your own podcast. And it's the exact same way that I started mine. I'm an expert procrastinator and don't finish a lot of things that I start. And I was very diligent with how I planned this one out, and I was ready to launch before my end goal. So all that framework on how I did that is in that blueprint. And then there's some other podcasting resources on there as well for anyone who's interested in dipping their toes in the podcasting scene.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us today, Nick. Like I love where you come from, because you're very transparent. You're very open. It's like, hey, I'm not there yet, but I'm going there. People, are you going to come with me?
Exactly.
Right?
Y'all load up.
Yeah. Up and coming entrepreneur, pack your bags.
Yeah. If you're going with Nick, get your helmet.
Yeah, exactly. Right. We're going in head first.
That's right.
Well, thank you guys very much. This was a blast. And like we mentioned earlier, you guys came on my podcast and it just clicked right away. So I just really appreciate the opportunity of coming and speaking on yours as well.
Oh, of course.
Glad to have you.
Of course. We'll have to have you on again for sure. And follow and chronicle your journey too, because we know you're going to be highly successful and continue doing what you're doing. You come from a very authentic place. We really like that a lot. Hey, by the way, what did you study in school? What was your major?
So I started studying chemistry because I was like, I don't know what to do. Pharmacist makes a lot. I'm going to do that. And then about a year or two into that, I was like, chemistry is different in college than it was in high school.
Yeah.
So I switched gears. I went to business because I was like, this is as broad as it gets. I can get jobs in any facet if I have a business degree. And since I don't know what I'm doing, that might be the best route. And really, the most I've learned has come outside of college. Just kind of putting myself in it and just kind of diving head first and teaching myself. Like you said, the internet is a very powerful thing. You can learn a lot of stuff on the internet.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's good though. That's good. Nick, you're going to go huge places. And
Thank you.
Absolutely. Let us know if we can help you in any way.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys.
You bet. All right. If you guys learned something today that helps you or inspires you, we encourage you to like it, love it, share it, and subscribe so you can be the first to learn about the next episode.
Yep, guys, it's about prosperity. And when we talk about prosperity, we're not just talking about money. That's just a part of it. We're talking about the true 360 of an abundant life that we wish for every one of y'all. We know that BrandFace, that prosperity favors the bold. So we say be bold, folks, especially with your brand, especially in 2022. Thank you, Mr. Nick. And thank you, Ms. Tanya.
You bet. You bet. All right. We'll see you next time on Be Bold Branding.
Brought to you by BrandFace, the only comprehensive personal brand building system across the globe.